Welcome to the Sweat Simple podcast. I'm Brooks, and I'm an online fitness, nutrition, and mindset coach who's here to help you learn how to eat and exercise for real life, not just those perfect moments. Because let's be real, there is a lot of conflicting information online, and it can be hard to know what's legit and who to trust. In every episode, I'll be sharing the science and psychology behind health, fitness, and long-lasting behavior change, but I'll also be sharing practical, real-life application because all of the best info in the world only matters if you can apply it to your real life. So grab a coffee, water, glass of wine, or lace up your walking shoes, and let's dive in. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Sweat Simple podcast. Today, we are talking all about what to do if I knew I wanted to set fat loss goals in the new year. Here is what I would be thinking about. And you might be thinking like, okay, Brooks, it's November. Why are we talking about New Year's goals now? And this is actually why we need to start thinking about it. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but there is something called the stages of change. And when we are thinking about changing our behavior, so really anytime we have a health and fitness goal, that's what we're trying to do. We are ultimately trying to change our behavior. And just before we move on, this is not me spewing some BS. I am certified in health mindset and behavior change. So this psychology behind fat loss, behavior change, why we do what we do when it comes to health and fitness, this is my bread and butter. This is my jam. I am certified in this stuff. I do continuing education on it every single week within a coaching mentorship. So this is my bread and butter. But anyways, when we are trying to change our behaviors, and anytime we have a health and fitness goal, that's what we're trying to do. Because if you think about it, anytime we are trying to achieve this overarching goal, there are a bunch of little behaviors that go into it. So let's say that the main goal is weight loss. In order to make weight loss feel easier, that's probably going to add up to a lot of little behaviors over time. So maybe it's things like meal planning, learning how to leave food on your plate, understanding how to navigate social events without throwing in the towel, getting to the gym for strength training. All of those are little behaviors that ultimately add up to our overall lifestyle. And when we are considering changing our behavior, we go through the different stages of change. And my coaching framework is actually built around these stages of change because if I help guide you through them, we eventually get to a place where the final stage of change is maintenance, where we have locked in this behavior, and not like maintenance from a fat loss perspective, but maintenance from a behavior change perspective, where we have locked in this behavior for good. We are not going back to our old behaviors that we might have right now, and we are fully changed. That is where I want all of my coaching clients to get to through our time together. But before we get there, we start with the earlier stages of change. And there is one stage called the contemplation stage. And this is where you might be right now if you're starting to think about setting a New Year's goal. If you're starting to say things like, okay, after the holidays, I really want to get this together. Or after the holidays, I'm really thinking that I'm probably going to want to have some health and fitness goals. That means we're not quite in the stage where we're ready to take action, where we're ready to start actually doing the things and making the change. We're just kind of thinking about it. We're considering the change. We're considering going to the gym. We're considering what it would be like to track calories. We're considering what it might be like to navigate the restaurants differently, but we're not quite ready to start doing those things. So if you have a light bulb right now and you're like, "Oh, yeah, that sounds like me. That sounds like where I'm at right now. I'm not ready to actually change my behaviors, but I'm starting to think about it." You are in the contemplation stage of behavior change. And this is a very normal stage. This is where we all start to get ready to take action. But this is also the best time to start reflecting. And this is the best time to start getting ready to take action. So that's why if you want to be ready to take action come January 1st, we need to do some of the things that I'm about to outline in this podcast Now, it's not taking action. It's just some things that are getting us to think about this further so that by the time January 1st comes around, we are more ready to take action. So if you know that you have a fitness goal that you're trying to set come January 1st, this is the podcast episode for you because we are going to talk about what we should start thinking about now so we are ready and prepared to get going to hit the ground running come January 1st. So, first, I want you to understand why you want to lose fat. Really get clear about why now. Like, why come January are you wanting to lose fat? What is the big change? What is the big moment? What is the reasoning for starting this thing now? I also would love for you to do some reflection, and these would be great journaling questions, honestly. So maybe write them down on your notepad if you're walking. Don't do it if you're driving. You can come back, but write them down on your notepad and come back to or the notes app in your phone, and you can come back to it. Question number 2 would be, what will be different in your life when you make these changes? So maybe it's something like getting to the gym more frequently. What would improve about your life if you started to go to the gym 3 days a week? Maybe it's that you want to start to cook at home more. What would be different in your life if you were eating more home cooked meals? Really think about what would change when you start to make these changes. Then I want you to think about, what have you tried before and what didn't work? This is extra important. This is like the most important. So, if that general goal that you're thinking about setting is January 1st is fat loss, what have you tried before to lose weight and what didn't work? And the reason that this one is so important is because it is really tempting to go back to old fat loss method. And if you have set this New Year's resolution before, if you are like almost always setting a weight loss goal on January 1st, that's an indicator that something needs to change and we need to approach things differently. So this question is really, really important because we want to make sure that we're not doing the same thing that we did before that has us in the same exact spot on January 1st. So what did we try before and what didn't work? As we're thinking about these goals and our action, I really want you guys to think about extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. And I have a whole other podcast about this, and I've talked about this, so I'll link it in the show notes. But intrinsic motivation is typically motivation that is coming from, or sorry, I flipped that. Extrinsic motivation is typically motivation that is coming from external sources. So it's often more aesthetic based. So things like, I want to look good for my vacation because people are going to see me in a bathing suit. I want to fit into these old jeans. I want to lose X pounds on the scale. They're a lot more external. You're doing these things to hit a goal, and a lot of times those things are driven more by other people than they are by yourself, even if you're not quite realizing it. Versus intrinsic motivation is truly motivated by internal motivations and how we want to feel, how certain things make us feel. So intrinsic motivation is more around like, I eat vegetables because they make me feel good. I want to go to the gym because I get a lot of energy from going to the gym and I like feeling strong and I like feeling energetic. So it's a lot more based around how we feel rather than aesthetic based goals that are more around other people. And when we think about successful fat loss, the research shows that intrinsic motivation, so that motivation that's coming from internal forces, is always going to help you be more successful in goal achievement and long-term goal maintenance than extrinsic motivation is. So when we are thinking about these why now and these what will be different in your life when we make these changes, we really want to focus on intrinsic motivation. And this is why that reflection before we start setting the goals on January is so, so important, because we want these things to be driven more by internal factors rather than just that external motivation of, I want to lose X number of pounds on the scale. And if you're like, I have only ever been focused on extrinsic motivation before, I wouldn't even know how to start cultivating intrinsic motivation. helping you cultivate intrinsic motivation is something that I do with all of my one-on-one coaching clients because, like I said, the research shows that is when fat loss is most successful. So if you don't know where to start with that, one-on-one coaching is going to help you build up that intrinsic motivation so that you're doing these things consistently because you want to do them. And yes, you can get to that place. I promise you that is so, so true. So after we do this initial reflection on why we want to lose fat, then we need to start to reflect on your patterns. So all of those, that big final question of like, what hasn't worked in the past? Why hasn't it worked in the past? We need to start building awareness. So what has gotten in the way in the past? What has made it so that this is now another year going by and you're setting the same goal? Is it that you tend to get overwhelmed and you give up? Is it that you fall into all or nothing thinking and the second you can't be perfect, you tend to throw in the towel, whether it's for a month or whether it's for a weekend? Is it that you really aren't sure what those first steps should look like and you're constantly floundering? Is it that your social situations are always falling you off track? What are those things that have gotten in the way in the past? We need to start to think about these things now so that we can plan for how we want to address them in the new year. So if every single year you are starting strong and every single year by February you're losing steam, that's a pattern that we need to figure out. What is triggering that loss of motivation in February and what would need to change about your approach this time? And again, if you are stuck in this pattern and you really don't know how to overcome it, this is where one-on-one coaching comes in. I can't tell you how many of my clients have come to me saying that this is the same year that they have set the exact same New Year's resolution. And by the time that we are finished working together, they don't need to set that same New Year's resolution because they have finally gotten to where they want to be. So the third thing that we need to do is we need to figure out what success of this goal will actually look like. So a lot of times when we are thinking about these goals, we are only thinking about the short term. So we are like, I just want to lose the weight and then I'll figure it all out. But we don't think about the method and we don't think about the mindsets behind that fat loss. So just some questions to start getting the wheel turning would be, if you lost 20 pounds, but you were still obsessed with food and thinking about it all the time, would that feel successful? Genuinely. Genuine question for all of you. Would you still feel successful and like you had achieved what you wanted to achieve if you were still thinking about food all the time? Or let's say if you stayed the same weight, but you learned how to eat without guilt and you stopped starting over every Monday, would that feel successful? And these are two extreme examples, kind of, but I'm curious, what does success look like for you? Is it truly just about the fat loss? Or is it that you want your life to look a certain way? You want to have certain behaviors. You want to think about food in a certain way. Which of those is more important? And what does success actually look like, even outside of just aesthetic reasons? So start to think about like, what habits would you have? What kind of relationship with food or movement would you want to have? This is how we create fat loss goals that actually stick, not just by setting the typical, like, I want to lose fat this year, but really thinking about what you want life to look like long term. All right. So our last thing that we need to think about is to get ready and to figure out if we're going to be ready to take action on January 1st. So let's be real, especially if right now we are not feeling ready to take action, we won't magically have motivation on January 1st. Now, this podcast and thinking about these questions, that is going to help. It's going to help you get ready to feel more ready to take action, and it's going to help you feel more prepared. But we won't magically just have motivation on January 1st. So the other thing you need to be thinking about in these next couple months is what support, accountability, what structure do you need to actually follow through? It's great to like have all of these goals. It's great to know that you want to lose weight and you want to improve your relationship with food and you don't want to do what you did last time and you want to build these habits. But if we haven't yet done those things and we've never been successful in doing those things, that's a good indicator that it might be helpful to have some sort of structure, accountability, support through coaching so that this year things are looking a little bit different. And it's okay if we're not fully ready to take action. It's okay if we're not ready to dive right in on January 1st. We just want to be thinking about these things. When we are ready to take action, what would support need to look like? How can you ensure that this time around, your goals, your success, it all looks different than it has in the past? So, over these next couple weeks, just start to get curious, start to pay attention to what your goals might want to look like, what your typical patterns have been in past years, what kind of support you would need to actually reach these goals. All of that stuff can be really, really helpful. So, to wrap it all up, we first want to think about why we're losing fat, what would change about not losing fat, sorry, whatever your goal is. We want to think about the why behind it, what would change about your life if we started to work on these behaviors. Two, we want to really reflect on previous years and why we aren't at that goal yet. What has held us back? What do we need to change? What do we need to shift? Three, you need to define what success actually looks like. Is it fat loss? Is it improving your relationship with food? Is it both? Is it something else completely? And get really honest about the level of support, accountability, program, whatever it is that you would need when you are ready to make these changes. So, if you want help figuring out what's been holding you back, why you are stuck in this pattern, that is exactly what we do together inside one-on-one coaching. I would love to work with all of you. You can apply in the show notes. If you have any questions about this episode, starting to set New Year's goals, the stages of change, please don't hesitate to reach out, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Let's talk about it. I could nerd out about this stuff all day long. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you all next week.